This is visual support, a teaching strategy for students with individuals with autism or autism spectrum disorder. This is an enhanced podcast by Amy Scales, and of course it had to be enhanced because it's visual supports. Visual supports come in many forms. We have forms of a graphic organizer, we have some visual supports for mathematics learning, and the more common visual supports for autism spectrum disorder are things like communication boards and visual timers, as well as PECs or AAC devices. So PECs are picture exchange communication systems, AAC are augmentative and alternative communication devices. Both these are ways that we can use pictures to communicate. There's a hierarchy of visuals that can be used for students to provide a visual support. In times of stress, students who are normally able to work at the higher end of the hierarchy will be knocked down a peg. So at the higher end of the hierarchy, we need objects that are real or pictures of real objects. And then lower down, in terms of support, are diagrams of an object that are color, then moving to black and white and printed word. So we see the hierarchy of visuals here. This comes from the effective educational practices for students with autism. According to the Kentucky Autism Training Center, then visuals could be in the form of an environment, such as a sign, body movement, such as leaning in, I hear you, or sign language, which is a gesture, or they could be specialized communication organizers, such as PECs, ACC, first then boards, and schedules. Students with ASD can be further supported by having their environment augmented to support the visual recognition of where they need to be. So for example, Sophie has a yellow circle, and as Sophie moves about her day, then she knows the task that she needs to do because she's the yellow circle. If you look on this other photograph here, Lyndon is a different person, but they have all the yellow things are for one person. The schedule for a different person is in a different color and would have a different seating area. So that's a visual support that allows students with ASD to communicate with the environment in a meaningful way and without having to ask a lot of questions. Additionally, down here, something you might see in the classroom is the visual support of I am working for. So we have like a star counter here, which allows them to know when they'll be done, so if they've achieved 5 stars, and what they will get. So that's another support that can be within the environment to have students engage, feel successful, and reduce the anxiety of not knowing what's next. Effective educational practices for students with autism spectrum disorder also points out that mathematics can be especially difficult for students with ASD. This is because students with ASD are already having difficulty processing verbal communication and potentially representations from their peers. But mathematics requires reference to symbols, mathematical representations, and mathematics-specific language, making the mathematics more difficult and perhaps more anxiety-producing for students. Effective educational practices also points out that UDL, Universal Design for Learning, is necessary for some but good for all. When we think about visuals, especially for ASD students, visuals are permanent. That means that timing is not a concern. We don't have to worry about time to process. The visual will always be there. This will relieve some stress as ASD students have difficulty processing words. Additionally, visuals encourage routines with all individuals who come in contact with our ASD learner. Again, by continuing routines uniformly, that reduces stress. So another type of visual support is a visual model. We can have passive modeling or video modeling. Passive modeling is a stagnant picture. Video modeling might look something like this. We can see the object being manipulated, and it supports our understanding. So visuals can be powerful at reducing anxiety by providing predictability for ASD students and in general to others. So they should be powerful tools to support the learning of others as well. So again, this is universal design for learning. So visual math is growing in popularity, and currently there are 2 websites that are excellent at supporting development of mathematics and connecting it to visuals. We have mathisvisual.com and we have visual patterns. There are others as well. Things like Number Talks and Dot Talks also support the connection to visual learning. Additionally, the YouTube video that was just shown determining the relationship of the volume of a sphere to related cones and cylinders is another example of visual support for learning math. Others are joining in with supporting learning through visual math. We have the Math Learning Center provides free math apps to visualize thinking and bridging mathematics. And we have mathies.ca. Mathies.ca provides games and learning tools, all with visual components. Visual components such as algebra tiles or fraction tiles or pattern blocks. Algebra and integer tiles can be used to represent an abstract concept, as well using manipulatives can support concept attainment for students with executive function or memory issues. Visual prompts such as a balance with similar objects on one side and a bag of unknowns on the other side can represent an algebraic equation. The complexity of this equation can be increased with the number of bags or changing the number of objects on both sides of the balance. Again, more visuals. Geometry concepts such as interior angle measures can be explored visually with apps such as the GeoBoard or more complex programs such as GeoGebra. Equasio from the company TextHelp is a platform that transforms written or spoken math into digital math text, which can be transformed into graphs and displays. So here we have an example of handwriting being recognized and turned into math text, but then that math text can then be connected and create other displays. Visuals are not just for students with ASD. The Ontario Mathematics curriculum calls representing a mathematical process. Representing allows students to transform their understanding into different forms when solving problems and identifying key features. Representing is possibly a visual support.